Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in again to one of my videos as Teen Drama Whore. So now that I gave you a basic overview of why I call myself Teen Drama Whore, my obsession for the teen drama genre, how my fandom started, how TDW started, I thought it would be fun to share my first impression of each of the 6 core teen dramas, or what I consider the core. So they're Beverly Hills 90210, Dawson's Creek, The OC, One Tree Hill, Gossip Girl, and 90210. And that's in order of premiere date from the earliest to the latest. So I'm going to start from the beginning. So this video is about Beverly Hills 90210, and it's especially fitting since tonight we're having our Zoom chat with Chuck Rosen, who was the executive producer for seasons 1 to 5, and that's a special opportunity for TDW's premium subscribers. Not too late to sign up if you want to take part. There's a few more hours left in the day before our event tonight. So, Beverly Hills 90210. It premiered on October 4th, 1990, and it ended on May 17th, 2000. When it premiered, I was 3 years old, and somehow, some way, within a matter of years, it became my favorite television show. I don't know how that happened. I really, really don't. Here's what I do remember. As I said in that overview video that I did the other day, I have this image in my mind of seeing part of Up in Flames, the season 5 episode where Kelly's burned in the fire while at my cousin's house. How I went from glimpsing that show to become that particular episode to becoming a regular viewer, I don't know. I just know that with season 6, I was watching every single week, 8 o'clock Wednesday night. It was can't miss TV, appointment viewing, and it stayed that way through the rest of the series. And as I was watching season 6 onward in real time, I was catching up on seasons 1 to 5, everything I had missed thanks to syndication. So FX, which is a sister network to Fox, was airing Beverly Hills 90210 syndication. And it often aired 4 times a day. So for example, it would air at 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. and then again at 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. Sometimes these were on 2 different timelines, so the episodes shown in the morning wouldn't be the same episodes that were shown in the evening, and sometimes they were. So they'd show the same 2 morning, same 2 night. Even when that was the case, if I had the opportunity to watch morning and night, even if it was the same 4 episodes or the same 2 episodes, I would. I wasn't passing up any opportunity to watch, to the point where my mom became concerned, not because of the subject matter, not because it was inappropriate for someone who was approximately 9 years old and then 10 and then 11 at this time, but because I was just so obsessed with watching it, to the point where, like, if I heard her coming and I was watching in my bedroom and I thought she might come into my room, I'd quickly change the channel just so she wouldn't catch me watching it, because she felt that it was just too much. Of course, I kept watching and I kept watching and I kept watching, and here we are today, so many years later, with my obsession still growing, even with the show having ended 20 years ago. In addition to FX, it also aired in syndication on WGN, which is a local news channel based out of Chicago. And for some reason, even though I was in New York, that was included in our cable lineup. So that was another channel I watched it on. And then, of course, SoapNet came along, and after 90210 stopped being in syndication on FX, it went to syndication on SoapNet, and I would watch it there often multiple times a day again. And so over time, I was able to get caught up on everything I missed from the earlier seasons. And not only that, I watched them again and again and again. So, you know, you'll hear fans say, well, I've watched the whole series 3 times. I honestly don't know at this point how many times I've watched the series. It would be impossible to keep track. And of course, we all have our favorite episodes that we watch more than others, right? So if there's an episode that I'm just kind of about, and it was going to be on that day, maybe I wouldn't watch it. Or if it was one that I especially loved and it was going to be on, you know, today and tomorrow, because maybe it was on today at 5 o'clock and it would be tomorrow's 10 a.m. episode, I would try to watch it both times. Because I came into the series a little more than halfway through its run, I think that has affected some of my opinions of the show and where my loyalty and allegiance lie in terms of my preferences for characters and couples and things like that. So the biggest example of that is that I'm a Kelly Dylan fan through and through. They are not only my all-time favorite couple of 90210, and not only my all-time favorite couple of the teen drama genre, but they're my all-time favorite couple for any television show that I've ever seen. Okay? Kelly and Dylan, it's hard to put into words. And though I have at different points, whether, I did an all-time favorite couples series on the original teen drama horror, so I wrote about my love for them there. And then when I was on the Beverly Hills 90210 podcast, that was the Triangle episode in September, I obviously detailed my feelings there. But sometimes it's hard to explain when something affects you so deeply and so emotionally. It can be hard to put that feeling inside of you into words. But anyway, so they're my top everything, and they're also my favorite characters individually. Kelly Taylor, Dylan McKay. I think it's possible that happened because I saw middle and later episodes before some earlier episodes. Meaning, I sometimes wonder if I had watched the series from the beginning, whether I was tuning in on October 4th, 1990, or if I had just watched in order, would I have fallen in love with Brenda and Dylan? Because they would have been the first pairing I would have seen, and would that have prevented me from one day falling in love with Kelly and Dylan? Obviously, we'll never know, but I do think it's a provocative question, and I think it's true for some of the other teen dramas as well that I saw similar to this order, where I wasn't exactly watching chronologically at first. I was coming in partway through and watching and going back, and I think that might have affected or influenced why I gravitated to certain couples and didn't gravitate toward others. Of course, even with my Kelly and Dylan love, that doesn't mean that I can't recognize moments between Brenda and Dylan that I love. For example, as I said on the podcast, the season 2 episode, Necessity as a Mother, it's a very emotional episode when Iris McKay comes to town and Dylan's drinking problem resurfaces, and there's moments between Brenda and Dylan that I love. Furthermore, my second favorite couple, and again, this is of all time, not just the series, not just the genre, is Brandon and Kelly. And I know that might seem hard to understand. How can my first favorite couple and second favorite couple work like that when they're seemingly rivals, right? Like, you would normally want Kelly with Dylan or with Brandon. It's not as common, I think, to want her with both of them. But I did, and I do. So, for example, in seasons 7 and 8, I'm totally rooting for Brandon and Kelly. And there are scenes and moments that melt my heart, like with this ring in season 7. That's a really critical episode on their journey to getting back together. Season 5, there's moments between them that I absolutely adore. And there's even an episode where I'm rooting against Dylan and prefer Brandon over him for Kelly. And that's something that I'm going to talk about in a future post and maybe a future video as well. So I don't want to dive into it too much there. And then another interesting thought, getting to the idea of does watching in chronological order matter or not matter, things like that. The show aired for 10 seasons. My favorite seasons are 3 to 10. And I feel really bad saying that, especially with our Zoom chat with Chuck tonight, because he was there for seasons 1 through 5, and I know how much seasons 1 and 2 mean to him, understandably so. And I know how much they mean to many other fans, and they're my least favorite. I feel badly saying that, but of course we're all entitled to our opinions, and we respect everybody's opinions. So it's not something that I feel the need to apologize for. But because I started watching later on, it was easier to become more attached to those seasons than the earlier ones. Furthermore, when do Kelly and Dylan get together? Season 3, right? So if they're my favorite couple, they are kind of what I like most to watch in the show. Well, they don't really kick into high gear until season 3. So, and then they're kind of on and off for 3 through 10. So then it just becomes natural or obvious that I'm going to like seasons 1 and 2 less. And that's also indicative with a couple of the other shows in the genre, which I will get to when we discuss them. So 1 and 2, it sounds weird to say, wait, this is your favorite show and you don't even like the first 2 seasons. And I don't want to give that impression. Of course, I like the first 2 seasons, right? But because the show becomes more serialized and more of an ensemble, and of course Kelly and Dylan come later, I just like those seasons better. Seasons 1 and 2 are very Walsh family focused. They're very Brenda and Brendan focused, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not a huge Brenda person. I think that's no secret. Of course, there's things with Brenda that I love, aspects of her personality that I love, but the storylines, the moments, the scenes that I love most occur in 3 through 10 and aren't often in seasons 1 through 2. Seasons 1 and 2 also had, people say that they were more issue-oriented in season 1 and 2. And I don't know that it's actually really more or less. I think the whole series was issue-oriented. There were topic-based episodes that happened in the later seasons. A couple that come to mind especially involve Donna with, the fellow designer who was cutting herself, whom she helped, or with the young gang member who stole from Now Wear This, or when she went back to West Beverly to help the theater program. And there's a huge continuity error with that storyline, but that aside, but she helped the student who was being sexually harassed, you could say, by the theater teacher. So there were still issue-oriented episodes and storylines throughout all 10 seasons, but in season 1 and 2, they were kind of limited to 1 episode at a time, and I think it was more mixed in the later seasons. Some of it was 1 episode, and some of it was a multi-episode arc. So the serialized nature, I think appeals to me more than some of the standalone aspects, but of course there's also standalone moments that I love. And here's a great example involving Brenda. Season 4's The Time Has Come Today, which was actually directed by Jason Priestley, is one of my favorite episodes, and it's kind of a standalone episode. Brenda finds this diary from the 1960s. She reads it. She finds the woman whose diary it was, and while it's a pivotal episode because at the experience of that helps her realize that she's still in love with Dylan, the diary and that woman, they don't play a role going forward anymore. There's nothing more to it besides that episode. So it's kind of a bottle episode. It's a standalone, but it's an episode that I love. One of the reasons I love it actually is because it presents kind of an alternate universe. You see almost versions of the characters as we know them, but in a prior generation, and they're actually playing a different group of friends. And I think it's really cool to compare and contrast, say, Brenda as Brenda and Wendy in the 1960s, or Kelly as Kelly and Jenny Garth playing Michelle in the 1960s. And I just have a thing for alternative universes and stories like that in general. And that's something I'm going to be exploring in a couple of weeks, actually, in our Christmas post. And there's a reason for that, but I won't give it away now. What do I want to say? I lost my train of thought. I guess that happens when people do these videos and they're not like using a teleprompter or something. Some of my favorite episodes. Of course, many of them are going to be Kelly and Dylan based or Kelly and Brandon based. But 2 favorite episodes that have nothing to do with those couplings are actually tragic episodes. First is season 6, One Wedding and a Funeral, and the other is season 10's Doc Martin. So the first is when Tony is murdered, and the second is when John Martin, Donna's father, dies. Those are 2 tear-inducing episodes that have great performances from Luke Perry in the former, Tori Spelling, and Vanessa Marcel in the latter. So I hope that makes it clear that as much as I have a favorite couple and as much as that influences what my favorite episodes and seasons may be, at the end of the day, I'm a fan of the series, I'm a fan of the show, and my love for it also goes beyond my favorite couple. So that's a little summary of how I feel about Beverly Hills 90210, how I started watching it, how I fell in love with different aspects of it, some of my favorite couples and relationships, and I'm also going to do this going forward with some of the other shows, and we'll work our way through all 6 series, and I'll be giving you my first impressions. So I hope you'll continue to watch. Bye.